and welcome. Thank you for spending time with me today. My name is Sarah, my pronouns are she, her, and this is a channel about the cross-stitch projects I'm working on and the cross-stitch patterns I design. You can find me at ModCross on Etsy and Instagram, and today is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024, and it's Flosstube number 12. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you for checking out the channel. I hope you see some projects that inspire you or interest you. If so, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. If you are a returning viewer, hi friend, welcome. Thank you for coming back and spending some time with me today. It is early February, and usually the winter months are very productive for me stitching wise. January was a great stitching month, so I have lots to talk about and lots to show you today. As you can see, there's now a light on in the reptile enclosure behind me. That was a new background piece in my last video. My older daughter received a leopard gecko for her 10th birthday / Christmas, and the gecko has finally come home and is getting acclimated. I don't think we'll see her. She's in one of her favorite hiding places right now, and she tends to sleep most of the day. So if you have a thing about lizards, I don't think she'll be poking her head out to see you. But I will include some pictures and talk more about her at the end if you are interested. So not as much cross-stitch on display today, but we have a lovely lighted enclosure happening. So I'm a little more in the tenor range than the alto today. We're coming through the latest round of preschool germs, of course, so have a little more resonant of a voice, but feeling pretty good and excited to share all the things with you today. So first of all, a couple shout outs. Thank you to Melanie and Michael of Uplift Stitches for shouting me out in their video. They were my up next feature at the end of my early January Flosstube. And also to Cross Stitch the Globe. Thank you, ladies. They have a new Flosstube Extra video out that's the most expensive cross-stitch patterns. So looking at 2023 verified sales on eBay, and not in a judgy way, but in a, you know, look, these are out of print patterns, and here is what people were willing to pay for, you know, these unicorn charts. And it was just really interesting because you hear about things being out of print, or somebody gets really excited about finding, you know, this blackbird or this birds of a feather or this mirabilia, and those were the designers that most of them were. But I had never heard numbers attached to them. But having the numbers and the detail attached to them was just really interesting. And to see the kind of things or the kind of themes that tend to be sought after by the community. It was just an interesting study. So definitely check those two channels out. I also had a giveaway on my last Flosstube for the pattern Tired Trio by Plum Street Samplers. This was my gift stitch for my sister for Christmas, and now I'm done with it. And so congratulations to Marilyn7354. She used the word slow in her comment, and Marilyn, I have to say, so I know that was the code word to use, and I put it in the video, and then I forgot. And so when I was responding to your comment about being a slow stitcher, I was like, oh, that's okay, you know, one stitch at a time. And that's still true. But also I realize now that you were probably using the code word to enter the giveaway and not just mentioning that you were a slow stitcher. And so my comment still holds true, or my response to your comment still holds true, but I also forgot that you were probably entering the giveaway, but you won. So congratulations. Marilyn, if you can email me at the email address in the description box below, send me your mailing address and I will get that pattern sent out to you. Doing fine. So, no finishes this month, or in January, no page finishes. I know I am on my quest for 40 page finishes. I made a lot of progress towards those, but none accomplished so far. However, I met my full coverage stitching goals for the month, which had not happened for both pieces since April 2023. So that's where we're going to start. It was pretty exciting. So first I picked up Ripples by Electric City Stitches. Julia is an amazing artist and then takes her artwork and makes them into these beautiful full coverage cross stitch patterns. So this, I started this in 2022, I think. I tried it 1/1 on 28 count Lugana, and I got about 300 stitches in, and I'd made multiple mistakes. It was not working for me, and so I decided to go with what I know and what I love, do 18 count Ada, and I restarted it. I got my first page finish on it last spring, and then I had not touched it since April of 2023. And it was time to change that. So I started in the top left, so I have the first page done, so I'm moving over. And January here in Iowa, we finally got winter weather. December had been very mild. And so we had two basically identical blizzard systems come through in the same week. So I think when we reached the halfway point through January, my children had been to school like 4 days in the month. It was wearing on everybody. But I got a lot of stitching done. And the first thing that I pulled out was ripples. And so basically, this is a big old block of DMC 995. It's about 800 stitches of my 1,000 for the month were in that block. And that takes me over to the bottom corner of page 2. And so we watched basketball, we watched movies, and I stitched 995 for a lot of it. And then I did fill in a couple other things, but I decided that was going to be my plan of attack, and I got those stitches in. So in January, I stitched 1,019 stitches on it, so met my 1,000 stitches goal. I am now at 9,532 stitches in out of 206,500 total, which means I am 4.62% done. It felt so good to get back to this. Julia, if you haven't checked out Electric City Stitches on Etsy, do so, because she started offering mini versions of her patterns, or like snippets of certain parts of larger pieces. And it's real hard not to be like, I could just start one of those because it's nice and small. So no, you need to get this back out because it's fully kitted now. I got all the extra floss. I'm good to go. And I just needed to make progress. So 18 count light blue Ada, all the called for DMC. My full coverages are now all 18 count 2 strands full cross. And so that is ripples. And I love it. I'm excited. It was nice to have a break and then come back to it and just be really excited about a piece. So that was nice. And it felt good to get back to it because it had been a little bit neglected because the full coverage stitching time that I'd had once spring hit and the rest of the year last year went into Peacock. So this is Peacock artwork by Elizabeth Welker, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is my other full coverage, big full coverage piece. This was my New Year's start in 2023, and it was a lower bottom right corner start. And ta-da! Look at it. I had to move it down a little bit in the Q step. So I took the bottom rail off because that is the top of the page. And so I think this month or next, I should have my first big page finish on Peacock. And I am so excited. Oh, it's so pretty. I filled in some random ones here to bring this up. And then, of course, all the purples, which makes me so happy. So I did exactly 1,000 stitches in this in January, and there was some floss chicken happening with those last 6 stitches. I had, a little bit of floss. I was like, I can make it. I don't need to start a whole nother strand. And I made it. So, and it wasn't even the last day of January. So I was able to do other things as well. So this is now at 7,060 stitches total out of the 360,000 that are charted. So it was 1.96%. Did I consider going to 2%? Yes, I did. But it was time to work on other things. So I will hit it this month, and that will feel good too. So Peacock, 18 count gray Ada. 2 strands full cross called for DMC. So very happy with how the full coverages are coming. So another project that really is a full coverage and is fairly large, that should probably count as a large full coverage, is Jade Vine by Carolyn Manning Designs. And there's 2 hashtags on Instagram, hashtag Manning Monday and hashtag just another Manning Monday. I'm not going to sing it this time, Julie. You can hum along. And since there were 5 Mondays in January, New Year's Eve day, or New Year's Day was a Monday. And I was like, oh, I should pull out my Carolyn Manning. And I've stuck with it. I've gotten at least some stitches in every Monday so far this year, which is exciting. And so making progress. This was a top right start for me last July. Gifted pattern and floss gifted from my dear friend Nithya of Daybreak Stitchery. And this is where I've gotten to. So we're over to the page break. I believe it's 3 pages across the top. So that is 1. And then filling in down kind of just as colors come up, because that's, it repeats down here. And so if I put in a color up here and I have the skein out, I'll work down as well, but eventually trying to get into the middle of that page and make more progress. So when I cut strands, I typically do, I'll hold the end and then I'll go to my elbow and then I'll double it up because I do a loop start. I fold it over and do a loop start. And that amount of floss does one of the diamonds almost perfectly. So it's a really, really satisfying way to make progress. You just get a strand out, you make a diamond, and then you see if you have time for another one. And usually you make time for another one. So that is Jadevine. I love it. It's all my favorite colors. It's really nice to just get it out once a week, and so that you're making consistent progress, but you're not burning out. You're able to do other things. The hardest part is remembering it's a Monday, and I should probably get the Carolyn Manning out. Julie and Stitches 16 and I have been reminding each other. So, and then you get on Instagram and people are posting pictures. And I think I've said it before, but the amazing thing about the Carolyn Mannings is there are so many of them that very few of the projects that use the hashtag are the same project. Like, I have never seen anybody else that's stitching Jadevine, but there's a lot of others in the Shooting Star collection. There are different colorways, and everybody has kind of different takes on it. There's she started to do some smaller patterns as well. So just, endless options, and I'm really happy with the one that I have. So thank you, Nithya, for that. Next is a gift stitching. The gift stitching that continues and continues and continues. This is a charity pattern, a Roy Kent charity pattern from ABITStitch on Etsy. It's a Venn diagram for Roy Kent. He's here, he's there, he's every effing where. Will be filled in eventually. And it's a gift from my sister-in-law. It was intended to be a gift for Christmas. I then thought, oh, perhaps for her February birthday. I have since told her that it will not be for her February birthday, but it might make it for next Christmas. So now I feel like I've got to jump on next Christmas, and I'm feeling very accomplished about it. So it's mainly just filling in. It's just filling in all the things. I am doing it all in DMC Étoile on a 32 count opalescent white Lugana. So it's super sparkly. You would think that just filling in would be meditative stitching, and usually it is. With the Étoile, it is not. My stitches look messy. I use beeswax or thread conditioner on all the strands before I start. I cut shorter strands than usual because they do start to fray and things. It looks messy when it's close up, but it's beautiful. It's sparkly. My sister-in-law is not going to care how neat it is, but it is not super soothing stitching. And so I do try to put in a strand before I pick up something else. So it's like, okay, you got to do your strand for the day, and then, eat your vegetables, and then you can have the fun things. But I am really glad I'm really pleased with the overall effect and how it's coming along. I think it's going to look great. But yeah, it's a process. Some projects are just a process. And this is one of them, and that's okay. So that is Roy Kent coming right along. And then I wasn't planning on getting this one out this month in January. If you've been with me since I started my channel, last January, I was potty training my younger child. And I desperately needed a comfort stitch. And for some reason, I always forget that January is just hard. It's always hard. No, I was not potty training a 3-year-old this year. I was figuring out how to take care of a reptile. And taxes. It's always tax season for us as self-employed farmers. Our deadlines are earlier. And so I was trying to catch up on all of our personal bookwork, the farm bookwork, the meat business part of the farm, and ModCross cross-stitch bookkeeping. So it's just a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. The weather's weird. It's cold. It's dark. And so it turns out that I need a comfort stitch every January, and that's okay because I had one. So last year I was working on gathering snowflakes from Luminous Fiber Arts, and so I pulled out gathering Clover for this January. And I'd started this on the first day of spring in 2023 and was really happy to get back to it. I'd finished the top bird and the border all the way across at about halfway down, and I think maybe I'd started this little Clover. But that was about as far as I had gotten last spring, and so it was time to pick it up again. These are all on a big piece of 36 count swank linen from Fortnite Fabrics. This is stitched with the called for Belle Soie, which is collared greens. So you can see I've gotten one of the big clovers and most of the second one. These will have buttons in the centers when I'm done. And then I came down to start the big watering can. So that was just some much needed monochromatic comfort stitching for a few nights. So I was really happy to get back to that because I have more to finish in the series. So got to keep it rolling. So if you need a monochromatic comfort stitch, I cannot recommend the Gathering series enough. It's delightful. So that is Gathering Clover. I had picked up something else for comfort stitching and then made a mistake. And so this piece had to go in timeout for a while. So I pulled out Gathering Clover for about a week, and then I was able to get back to this one. I did need to film a Flosstube. I had a lot to update you on, but mostly I just wanted to be able to talk about this piece. So settle in. From Yalda to Nowruz, from Miriam at Marroomy Designs, Marroomy Crafts on Instagram, and here on Flosstube. This is a band sampler stitch along that is stunning, which it's Miriam doing borders. Like, we all knew it was going to be stunning, right? So Yalda is winter solstice, longest night of the year. Nowruz is the spring equinox. And so there's going to be 12 bands, and just representing cultural things, things that Miriam thinks of this time of year, things that are meaningful to her. And every band comes with explanations, information, YouTube links, songs, images, whatever inspired her. And it has been so much fun to work on. And so when I was in need of some comfort, I was like, oh, I'll just keep working down on this repetitive motif on the border. I feel like I have it down. And at one point I went over 3 threads instead of 2 on the linen. And I was like, oh man. And there was a 2-week break in the middle of January where there weren't any new drops. And so I was like, oh, good, I can catch up. No, I did not catch up. But I made really good progress. Once I sucked it up one night, I figured out my mistake, I got it back on track, and I have not been able to stop stitching it since. So A couple notes. I am personalizing this a bit. So for the first band, I really wanted to have the Farsi, but I also wanted the English translation so I'd remember what it said. It's a quote from Saadi, a Persian poet, and Miriam gives us the translation, and so I really wanted to have that in the piece. And so I didn't want to get rid of this little border part because it's so beautiful, but I did. I moved the Farsi up to the top and added the English translation underneath. And then one good thing about waiting a bit and not being super caught up on, especially on a mystery style, is that sometimes you see what's coming and you have a brainstorm or you have an idea. So Miriam has offered these 6 bands plus 2 alternates. There was an alternate for the first drop, and I ended up stitching both. And then there was also an alternate for the Capricorn drop number 4. And this is the alternate. This is the rooster. And Miriam says, the second option of the 4th band is in celebration of the new year, hoping for brighter and more just future. Roosters are considered to be good omens. In Persian culture, they are also a symbol of a call to action as they wake up those who are asleep. And thinking about the world as it is right now, as state legislatures come into session, many of them in early January, the call to action and waking up those who are asleep really resonated with me. And I thought that has to be in the piece somewhere. I have to stitch that in there somewhere. And so because Miriam offers her the significance, her inspiration behind each of the bands, I decided that I had to figure out a way to put all of those in there so that when I look at the piece, I can remember. And so I decided, well, I'll show you the whole piece, then I'll show you how I'm doing that. So this is where I've gotten to. Looks so good. Oh, I love this so much. So here's the whole piece. I'm pretty sure that needle minder was a gift from Miriam as well. So we have the border. Let's do the details before I forget. The border is in Blue Spruce by Gentle Arts. The interior variegated thread is Threadworks 1138. And then there is some PB01 gold metallic petite treasure braid for some sparkle and just because. So for the first band, there's the Farsi, and then there's the English translation that I charted out. Seeing your face every morning is Nowruz. Every night without you is Yalda. And then this was the alternate band from the first drop, and this was inspired by the first snowfall. And Miriam talked about growing up in Tehran, and she sent a picture of Damavand mountain. And so in the border, in kind of the separating space, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I backstitched in Damavand, mountain, Tehran, just as a reminder. And then this third band, I could not wait to stitch. When this one dropped, I was like, oh man, I can't wait with this variegated thread. And this is the ice flower. And so and I've learned that the darker part of the variegated thread obviously is a lot easier to read in backstitch than the blue. And I apologize for my pronunciation. I think it's Golayaka or ice flower. And I love the song that Miriam sent with this band. That was really fun to listen to. So then getting prepared for the rooster version, the rooster option in the 4th band, have those who sleep wake up. And then over here, I'll put in brighter and more just future once I get a little farther over. And then we'll have the roosters. So one of the really fun parts has been figuring out where to put the gold. Just kind of what to do with the gold metallic. If you follow me on Instagram, you see I thought about having the gold be the horizontal interior bands. And I actually got the first one about halfway over stitch, and I was just like, no, it's too much. It's not gonna work with the piece. And by then I'd started to see some of the bands come out, and I mean, these aren't motifs just floating in thin air. I mean, the horizontal bands are part of the bands and part of the design, especially with the flowers. And so I thought, well, the gold is too much. I don't want it to all be blue spruce. There's one other floss in this project bag. Obviously, this took me like a half a day to come to this realization. I was like, oh, I could just use the variegated for the interior border. Boy, we got there. We got there, and now I'm off to the races. So 6 of the 12 bands have been released. Miriam's halfway through. I am a quarter of the way through the stitching. But it feels good to, once getting those colors figured out, what I want to do as far as incorporating the inspirations into the piece. Just kind of working through all of that took a while, and now I feel like I've really got it locked in and can just go and do the stitching. So just gonna hold it up a little while longer. I love it so much. From Yalda to Nowruz, Marroomy designs. And you can still get this. You can still jump on Miriam's Etsy shop. It's one purchase, and then she'll email you the next drops. They're usually on Friday mornings. And if you don't want to do the whole thing, you can easily just do less of the border and just do the ones you want. Or Nithya from Daybreak Stitchery is taking individual bands and making them into bookmarks. Just genius. So smart. So much to do. I can't wait to see what's coming next. And as we get into spring motifs, you can see there's going to be another flower. So this is chrysanthemums. And then this is in honor of the beginning of February. Stitch all the burbs in February. So can't wait to get to those. Cannot wait. It's all I want to work on most of the time. I mean, I put a lot of time into that this month, and it's been glorious. So thank you, Miriam, for that. Hop on it. It's not too late. You can do it. I think that's my last whip. I had one new start. This was a planned stitch along that I am running. It's called the #FindingWarmth Sal, because we are stitching Finding Warmth from my friend Allie at Cozy Cabin Stitching. It says, turn your face toward the sun and you will find warmth on the coldest day. Very appropriate to start in the middle of January, especially this year because we were in the middle of blizzards and very, very cold temperatures. So I love this the moment it came out last winter, and I'm so excited to finally be stitching it. And this is what I have. Look at it. Oh, it looks so good. I mean, first of all, can we talk about the Jersey Cow Needleminder from Top Knot Stitcher Shop? Amazing. So this was a bottom right corner start, which is my usual. And then I've made it up to the top corner and started to come over. It's a 2-page pattern. It's super cute. It's 136 by 88. So it's good size, but it's not huge. And then, so I'm getting the brown in as kind of the backbone, and then starting to fill in all of the greens, some of the berries, the snowflakes, just, everything looks so good. This was kitted from Stash. This is 36 count Morning Fog, I think, from Be Stitch Me, and it was a fabric of the month that they had pieces of for sale in the physical shop in Moline, Illinois. And so I picked it up for this piece, knowing that I was going to stitch this one. And I had a darker green that I tried at first, and it was a little too overwhelming. It was a little too much of a contrast with the light green. You couldn't really see the light green, and it just kind of overpowered it. And so I just busted out my DMC and found a green that was a little more medium, and really, really happy with it. So I'm really looking forward to stitching the text, because I love stitching text. And I think it's going to go pretty fast. My hesitation is I'm not quite sure which color I'm going to use for the text. So I figured I would just work on the border first. Originally I was going to do the text in white, And I still probably will because that was my plan. And so my brain tends to get stuck on the plans. When I started doing the snowflakes, and it was probably because of the lighting at the moment, they weren't showing up super well. But the more things that I stitch in and the more snowflakes there are, the better they're showing up. And also it just depends on the light at the time. And so I think I probably will still try putting the text in white and just see how it looks. Just, you know, put in a couple words and see how it's reading. You know, I'm going to know what it says. And so if you need to get up close to read it, that's probably okay. So we'll just kind of see. I mean, obviously any other color, you know, even the brown would look good. It's charted as blue. And, you know, either the blues would look amazing and the greens. So just a matter of not overwhelming the piece with any one certain color. So fun to come. But yeah, it's been, I triple, quadruple, quintuple check the brown, the counting on the brown stitches, and then just kind of hope for the best and start filling everything else in. So please join us, join along. There's no deadline. We just, you know, we like to start things. And so if you have also, you know, if this speaks to you, please check out Cozy Cabin Stitching on Etsy and pick up a copy of Finding Warmth and join in, because it really is. It's a fun piece to stitch. So those are all the things I stitched on. I was updating my whip spreadsheet, getting ready to film my whip parade, probably next week. And that's about a quarter of my whips I think that I worked on in January. I was getting a lot of things out. So I have one piece of Stitchy Kindness. Kat from Sprouting Lupine had a follower, hit a follower milestone and had a giveaway, and I was one of the winners, and so I got to pick one of her patterns. And if you have not checked out Sprouting Lupine on Etsy and had to just pick one, ooh, it was rough. But I really loved Delft blooms. My mother-in-law has a collection of blue and white Delft pottery. Not all official Delft, but lots of blue and white pottery in her kitchen. And so I thought that would be a really nice piece. Or it's blue, so I could just stitch it for me. Or both. But Kat does really amazing kind of naturalist patterns. If you aren't a super mushy Valentine's person, but you want something red and pink to put up around this time of year, but make it mushrooms, she's got you covered. Moths, these flowers. I have her piece from the Stitchers Collective's Earth Day charity bundle last spring. Her piece is the one I kitted up first. And I haven't stitched it yet, but Miriam did. So just really, really cool stuff. I love her style. I love the arrangement and the placement of things. The variation in the sizes is just right. It's really, really cool. So if you haven't checked out Sprouting Lupine, get on it. Very excited about this. So thank you, Kat, and congratulations. And I can't wait to stitch some of your stuff. So when I was putting my notes together, I didn't think I had a lot of Stitchy investments. I didn't think I had a lot of haul. I don't tend to buy a lot of things around Christmas. And then with my birthday coming up here in the middle of February, you know, I just put things on my list instead. But it turns out as I was preparing, I was like, oh yeah, I have some stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I had my last fabric of the quarter from Barefoot Needleart. This is Purple Rain, and it's probably going to be washed out. It's a really dusty purple, which, I mean, come on. Like, you know, I will put anything and everything on this fabric. I wonder if I fold it back up, if it'll be a little more of a saturated. But look at that modeling. Oh, it's so good. And so this was, the fabric of the quarter was my husband's Christmas present for me last year. And so this was the last of the quarterly ones. I get 18 count Aida. And honestly, I was thinking back and it was like, oh, what colors do I usually put things on? Blue, purple, gray. That was 3 of the 4 colors that I got from this club. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. Barefoot Needleart down in South Carolina. Great shop. So I had that. And then I can't believe I forgot about this. Literally the day after I filmed my last Flosstube, Miriam released this, and it took me a couple days. I had some trouble rendering the last video. It was a whole thing. And so I almost filmed like an addendum just to talk about this. But I didn't, and so now I get to talk about it now. This is Azaad, the Lost Unicorn. And, oh my goodness. I'm going to talk about Miriam for a second. Marroomy Designs has been mentioned at length before. It takes a bravery and a vulnerability to make a Flosstube, right? To put yourself out there on the internet and say, hey, here's a thing that I love. Here's a thing that I enjoy. And here's some art that I'm making, and just putting it out there for anyone to watch or comment on. It is a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level of bravery and vulnerability and sharing to talk about your journey to accepting a part of who you are. And that's what Miriam did. And I can see why it took her several tries to film that video where she introduces this pattern and talks about the process and talks about her journey. But I'm so glad that she did. And so even if this isn't something that you would normally stitch, I would encourage you to go and watch the video on Miriam's channel where she talks about it. Because I think hers is an incredibly important perspective, especially for people that maybe haven't gone through that particular journey with their identity, but also obviously for those that have. Just the openness and where she's at and what she was willing to share is so important. And I hope, Miriam, I hope you know how grateful we are and how important that is to have in the community and have available. So thank you for that. And then it's an amazing pattern. The border is unicorn heads. I mean, a unicorn head border, people. It's stunning. And so the other thing that I purchased, obviously, run, don't walk for this pattern. But then the fabric that Miriam used for the model is from Banana Oil on Etsy. And she, talk about an artist. All of her fabrics are one of a kind. They're whatever colors, patterns, techniques move her in the moment. And then she puts them up on her shop. And they are stunning. They are so cool. And so when Miriam decided to use this for her design, she contacted, I think it's Christy. And she said, I know you don't reproduce individual fabrics, but could you do something that gets close? And she worked and she came up with things that were close. And so when Miriam released the pattern on her birthday in early January, there was also fabric available in the Banana Oil shop. And oh boy, sprinted as fast as my little fingers could carry me. Look at this fabric. And I have to open it up. You can't just show like a little piece of this. No. You gotta get the whole thing, the whole shebang. Look at the, oh my God. You could just frame this fabric and everybody would be like, oh, that's an amazing piece of art. You're right. It is. It's amazing. I can't believe I forgot about this. I was going through my stack of craft things that have not yet been put away, which is a large stack, to figure out, oh, what's new? This amazing 18 count Ada is new from Banana Oil. So Azaad, bless them, is not going to take up the whole thing. Oh, shucks. Whatever shall I do with the rest of this fabric? I has an idea. Just gonna hug it a little bit. Is that weird? No, it's not weird. Okay, those were my purchases. Nothing else, I promise. Plans. keeping with the 1,000 stitches on each of the two big full coverage pieces, sticking with my Manning Monday, keep going on the Yalda to Nowruz sals so that maybe I can get close to a finish by the spring. Just, yeah, every Friday morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, check the email, see what the new band looks like. So, and I think every week in February we'll have a drop, and then maybe there's a break in the beginning of March again to let people catch up a little bit. So hopefully I can take advantage of that this time. And then, I will probably get out Long Dog Opening Gambit for my birthday. This was my birthday start in 2022. I finally had a page finish last year. And so I'm going to start coming over and work on the next page because I really would like to have at least one page finish for each of my whips this year. Again, I'm trying to get to 40 page finishes for the year. Some of the whips are only one page, so a page finish is going to be a finish. And then other ones, it's going to be progress. And I really would like to have progress on all of my whips. I think I have 23 whips. I just went through and updated the spreadsheet. I think it's at 23. And so I kind of skimmed through and I was like, okay, that's a 2-pager. I can do the 2 pages. That 1 page is going to take a lot. So we'll just put that down at 1 and just kind of did an estimate. And I think I came out to about 34 page finishes if I hit all my whips the way I think I could. I mean, we're like 5-6 weeks into the year. Everything is still possible, right? It didn't include any model stitching. I really hope I'll have some model stitching to do. The designing has started to come back, but yeah, no model stitching going on right now. So hopefully that comes back at some point. But I thought I would get Long Dog out just to show because I haven't showed it in a while. And oh, it's so pretty. I can't wait to get this back out. So this is 36 count shark fin from Fortnite Fabrics. It's this really beautiful subtle blue modeling on a gray. It's like, so good. And really dark purple floss from Silks For You. And that is my first page done. And so I would like to get this back out this month, just because it's going to be my birthday, and just to work toward that next page finish on that one for sure. So Whip Parade, probably filming sometime end of this week, early next week, and then I'll hopefully have that up on the channel. And that is it for the stitching portion. For the farm feature, I usually do a little bit on what's going on the farm or show some cute baby animals. Today we're going to talk about Anka, the leopard gecko. So if you have a thing about lizards or reptiles, you can feel free to skip ahead a bit. She's about the cutest reptile I think that we could have gotten, in my opinion. So I'll put up some pictures here. She is a juvenile Max Snow leopard gecko. And so leopard geckos are categorized by their morphs or their colors and markings patterns. And so she is a Max Snow. She was born last June. So she's a juvenile, and I think she might be going through puberty. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about reptiles and leopard geckos specifically. So being a livestock farmer, having been around dogs, cats, farm animals my entire life, I feel like I've got mammals pretty well locked down. You know, how to care for them, feeding, behavior, interpreting behavior details. I feel like we've really got that locked in. Reptiles are proving to be a completely different experience. Completely different. And I mean, we've researched. My daughter has been very diligent about watching YouTube videos, and I've joined Leopard Geckos for Beginners Facebook groups. We did about 3 months of research on all the equipment and stuff before we put anything on her birthday and Christmas list. So, like, I mean, we were probably as prepared as we could have gotten. Still a completely new experience. She eats live insects. So we have a little colony of mealworms living in our house. We have some dubia roaches. We have some crickets. And you dust them with calcium powder or vitamins and mineral powder. We had to figure out all the specific hides and hiding places. One side of the tank needs to be warmer, one side needs to be cooler, certain humidity levels. So we're getting all that stuff dialed in. She's definitely, we got her the middle of January, 11th of January, I think. I think it was in between the blizzards. So for the second blizzard, we just sat around and watched the gecko and tried to figure out what was happening. Geckos are crepuscular, so she's most active at dawn and dusk. So sleeps during the day and then seems to be somewhat active at night. We haven't gotten a nighttime camera yet to watch and see what she does at night. But definitely comfortable being handled. The breeder that we got her from did a great job getting her really accustomed to people. So that's been nice because really, I mean, it's my daughter's 10. Like she wants to be able to have her gecko climb on her. Like that's the main thing. And our 4-year-old is obsessed. She's like, when can I get a gecko? Which is a big improvement from the original pet that she wanted when she found out her sister was getting one. My 4-year-old wanted a rattlesnake for her birthday. And I said, no, not in this house. You're not getting a snake. And also, I'm not sure if you can legally have a rattlesnake as a pet. So her aunt and uncle were kind enough to get her a very large stuffed rattlesnake that actually rattles. And that's enough for me to wake up to in the morning. So, but yeah, the reptiles just take a long time to get accustomed to new surroundings. And so really after about a week, we could see her moving around the enclosure more. She was checking out more of the spaces. She wasn't hiding as much. And then she finally started eating a little bit, but it's still not incredibly regular. So if anyone has tips on feeding for leopard geckos, and every YouTube video I watch is like, if you've gotten your gecko in the last 2 weeks or changed their environment somehow, they're probably not going to eat. Like, you just have to be patient. Is it winter? They might be partially brumating. They're probably not going to eat. Are they going through puberty? She might be. They're probably not going to eat. Is it spring and you have a female? She might be ovulating. She's probably not going to eat. And it's just like, oh, it's just so different. It's so different. But you know, we've got the heat levels dialed in now. We've got the humidity figured out, and she comes out and she interacts with us. So hopefully she's pretty happy. It's just we're continuing to try and figure out this whole feeding, insect eating thing. And we do weigh her every week to make sure she's not losing too much weight. She's held steady so far. And she poops regularly. So yeah, that's all I know. But it's been a very interesting experience. It's always kind of, it's good. It's stressful, but it's good to be reminded of what you don't know, especially for something you think you have figured out, like taking care of animals. Like, it's literally my job. But you know, there's a wide variety out there in the animal kingdom, and reptiles are a whole new thing. But our 10-year-old really wants to work with reptiles someday, and so this is pretty important hands-on experience. So really, really happy with how it's gone so far. Thankful that my family was willing to buy UVB lights and deep heat projectors and cork hides for Christmas gifts. So that's Anka. Oh, the name. Anka, O-N-C-A, is her name. Going off of the leopard gecko idea, my daughter really loves the big cats as well as reptiles. And so we looked up the scientific names for the genus Panthera, which are the large cats. And the leopard was like Panthera leoparda, which wasn't super inspiring as far as a leopard gecko name, but I think it's the jaguar is Panthera Anka, O-N-C-A. And so she thought that would be a pretty cool name for a leopard gecko. So her name is Anka, and she's almost 8 months old, and their life expectancy is 15 to 20 years. So she's going to be here for a long time, hopefully. So if anybody has any leopard gecko tips or experiences, please put them in the comments. Gotten some really great help from Facebook groups and things so far, and we've got an exotic vet that we know where we need to go if we need. We've been tracking her weight and tracking her eating. So yeah, new experiences. So that's up from the farm. By next time, maybe we'll be having some cute baby animals born in the spring. Probably have some flower seeds started. So get to start going into more back on the farm stuff for the farm update. That's a lot of rambling about a gecko. My last thing is my Up Next segments, where I suggest a Flosstuber that you might want to check out next if you are done here and you haven't watched them already. Today's is Daybreak Stitcher. So my dear friend Nithya is Daybreak Stitchery. Jerica is Daybreak Stitcher, or Daybreak_Stitcher, I believe, on Instagram. And she is a newer Flosstuber, but she is prolific, and she is also a prolific stitcher. And she has beautiful projects. If you like seeing somebody do their own thing with color, which is Nithya as well, so just watch both of them, obviously. But Jerica is doing the Bake Me a Quaker style, which is a Rosewood Banner piece with Nithya and EJ from Sunshine Stitchers and a lot of other people. And the colors that she's using for that are so pretty. Just beautiful pastel. She does some smaller stitch, some like tinier stitching, just a really incredible range of projects. Super sweet, and highly recommend Daybreak Stitcher for my Up Next. So that is it. Both the kids are at school today, so I didn't have any kid-based interruptions. My stops and starts were all me not being able to remember things. Oh, the days when I could blame it on the kids. So thank you for sticking around. Please leave a comment. What are you stitching on? Any questions about my changes to the Yalda to Nowruz style? Anything. This is about community. So thank you for being here. Do what you can when you can. And happy stitching. Bye.